It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Millsy. Back to Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew in version 1.0 decklist of the Commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider checking out those links in the description. I'd appreciate it. But today, as we kind of finish up our last content for Tarkir Dragonstorm, it was only right, being that Surrak and Goreclaw is one of my favorite commanders, that we do some sort of either Surrak or Goreclaw for Tarkir. And I thought it'd be fun to just brew Surrak and Goreclaw just for the channel, not base it off my own list, just kind of reapproach it how I would now. And try to fit it within the normal Millsy Brews budget. Obviously, my version of the deck does not fall into the normal Millsy Brews budget, but I wanted to do that, have some fun, and really celebrate one of my favorite commanders from Tarkir in Surrak and Goreclaw. A 6-mana, 6/5 human bear with trample and gives all your other creatures trample. And whenever another non-token creature comes in under control, it gets a counter and haste until end of turn. So pretty much fixes the one thing that Stompy has an issue with, which is getting your creatures involved right away. And Surrak fixes that in Goreclaw fixes that by giving them all haste, making sure they can hit the turn they come down and starting to become a real problem. Just like my own version of the deck, the play pattern is pretty simple. We're gonna ramp up to 6 to get Surrak and Goreclaw down. Keep going to get all our big boys in, and then get them in for damage. If we can cheat them in, that's great. We have a couple ways in our colors to do that, some new cards. And then if there's any way we can make them just hit a little bit harder by either doubling their power or doing other things, we'll happily do that, and we'll show you that along the way. I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in checking out our videos just a little bit early for $1 a month, check it out down below. Well, ramping up is pretty easy because green has a lot of that. There's a lot of ways to view it. We want a mix of creature and spells. You have things like Nissa, who just allows all of our forests to tap for additional green as their static ability. This is great because we're playing, I believe, 32 out of 35 lands are basic forests. So, I mean, a lot of that's going to happen for a lot of us. The +1 can untap a land and make an elemental, allowing you to basically tap it again, which is pretty cool. And then the -8 can actually get all of the lands out of our graveyard, or our library if we can get there. Fanatic Aronis is probably one of our best mana dorks, tapping for a green, and then once we have a creature power 4 greater, it taps for 4. This is very useful in your starting hand because once you get to a certain level where you can get a creature with power 4 or greater down, you just explode in mana. Same thing with Gwenna, can tap for two mana of any combination of colors, but you can only use it to cast creatures or activate abilities of creatures. And this is a really fun ability because then she can tap herself and put a counter on herself whenever you cast a creature with power 5 or greater, which is most of the deck. So Gwenna can actually net us multiple sets of 2 mana per turn, allowing us to hopefully cast multiple creatures. Hulking Raptor is a great option on turn 3. Fanatic Aronis into Hulking Raptor would be certainly a great start. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you add double green. This is a 5/3 for 4 mana that's going to come in and help net us a couple extra mana every turn. Selvala is probably the single best mana dork in our deck. Adding an X mana in any combination of colors makes the greatest power among creatures you control for just a green mana. So, even if you only have Selvala out, she's still going to ramp you a little bit by 1, but the bigger your creatures are, the better she taps for mana, and she does give you that incremental card draw when you play creatures as creatures get bigger and bigger. Of course, you have classic things like Rampant Growth to just go get a basic land and put it in tapped. In my version of the deck, we're playing things like Nature's Lore and 3 Visits, but you don't really need them here. But I wanted to explore with some new options. Emerald Medallion makes a ton of sense. I've had it in the list for a long time, but in my list, and I thought here, we'd experiment with Lumbering Worldwagon. It might seem odd. There's a vehicle that doesn't really trigger any of our things, but its power is equal to the number of lands we control. Again, really good with trample, right? Because then we can trample through. But it says whenever it enters or attack, we just go get a basic land. So on turn 3, this is a 1 more mana Rampant Growth, but it packs a body, and then every time it attacks, right, then you can go get another one. The only downside is it's a crew 4. But the nice thing about the crew 4 is, let's say you have a 4 power creature, but this is a 7/4 or an 8/4. I mean, you're going to happily crew this and have it attack instead, right, to get more damage and get the land. And then playing things like Utopia Sprawl and Wild Growth, just having a land tap for an additional mana. Well, who are the big boys we're looking for? Probably one of my favorite big boys in the deck, especially with Surrak and Goreclaw, is Apex Devastator, a big 10 mana 10/10 that lets you cascade 4 times. And remember, all of our creatures are coming in with haste as long as Surrak and Goreclaw is out. meaning we have a really big chance on Apex Devastator to hit a bunch of really big creatures or really good spells for us. And doing it 4 times is just really useful. Defiler of Vigor is a great green creature for us. Anytime we would go to cast a green permanent spell, we can pay 2 life instead of one of the green pips on that card, which is nice if you want to help extend your mana. And then whenever you cast a green permanent spell, you just put a counter on each creature you control. So now we're spreading out counters to all of our creatures. Emergent Woodworm may look odd as a 7 mana 4/4, but when it comes in, it has backup. Remember, backup's an ability where you can put 3 counters on a target creature. And if you put it on another creature than the Woodworm, it actually gains Woodworm's ability, which is whenever this creature attacks, you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is its power, and you can put a permanent with mana value X or lesser among them onto the battlefield and put the rest on the bottom. What I really like about the Woodworm is you bring this in with haste, right? You put the 3 counters on Surrak, so now Surrak's a 9, this is a 5, and you basically get to look at the top 14, right, and put 2 down, hopefully, depending on the mana value. It's just a really great ability and can really help over the course of a game. Of course, we're playing multiple versions of Ghalta. We'll get to the newer one a little bit later, but of course we got to play Primal Hunger. Most of the time this is going to come down for just 2 mana and be a 13/13 with haste and trample. Hydra Omnivore is a creature I've been wanting to try out a little bit more. A 6 mana 8/8 that when it hits an opponent, each other opponent gets that much damage onto them. I think this is a really useful ability because Hydra Omnivore is coming in as a 9/9. It should hopefully hit pretty hard, and when you combine that with all the other damage we're doing, right, hopefully it really hurts our opponents. Quilled Greatworm, 6 mana 7/7 with trample, and whenever a creature we control hits a player, they get that many +1/+1 counters. This is a great ability because then, right, turn over turn, our creatures are getting even harder to deal with, and then we can remove 6 counters from among our creatures and pay its cost to get the Great Worm back, which is a really fun ability to get it back if needed, if it's in the graveyard. Railway Brawler is going to give our creatures counters equal to their power when they come in, a really nice ability because we'll also get the counter from Surrak. Silverback Elder gives us some utility every time we cast a creature spell. You can either destroy an artifact or enchantment, look at the top 5 and get a land or gain 4 life. Again, that destroy artifact or enchantment can be very useful, right, against some decks. And then Tarion may look out as a 5 mana 9/7, but think about it. With Surrak and Goreclaw, this is a 5 mana 10/8 with trample. That's just going to become a real problem for your opponents. Openwald Hydra comes in and gets any land of your choice. Here in this budget version, we're not playing something like Nykthos, I don't believe, but Nykthos would be a great choice off of Openwald, right? Tapping for your Devotion to Green, getting you a ton of mana. It's just a star's number of lands you control. Vault-Born Tyrant gives us the ability to draw some cards and gain some life whenever a creature with power 4 or greater comes in. And then Zopandrel is one of a few effects in our deck that just double the power and toughness of each creature we control at the start of each combat. A huge ability. Especially on the attacking end, but also on the blocking end. But I think where I really leveled up with this deck was when I realized that, just like we can off Apex Devastator, cheating your creatures onto the battlefield is almost the most ideal if we can, because then we don't have to pay mana for them, but we still get to use them. And there's a lot of options to do this. I think some of the most obvious options are something like Ghalta Stampede Tyrant. When it comes in, putting a number of creatures from your hand onto the battlefield. This is a killer ability because not only do you get that 13/13 Trampler with Ghalta, but you get everything else that was in your hand. Kadama the East Tree, I think, is a great choice as well. Whenever another permanent enters, if it wasn't put on the battlefield with this ability, you can put a permanent with equal or lesser mana value from your hand on the battlefield. Could be a creature, could be a land, could be an enchantment. There's so many things that Kadama can do. The other nice part about Kadama is if you were to play a land, Kadama can put another land from your hand onto the battlefield, which is pretty cool. And then I think the big one for probably most people when you think about it is going to be Last March of the Ends. A big 8 mana spell that can't be countered. And we draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures control and put any number of creatures from our hand on the battlefield. I have yet to see a game in my version of this deck where Last March hasn't knocked at least 2 people out of the game, if not knocked the entire table out. It's a crazy spell, and the fact that you can play it when you want to, like, I think that's what's so great about the old Ghalta being able to come down for just 2 mana, is I've seen games where I Ghalta and then the next turn I Last March, just drawing like 13 and just having the pick of the litter as far as creatures to put down. I like Last March, and it's a ton of fun to see it explode. We have a very similar cheating thing in See the Unwritten. Look at the top 8, you can put a creature from among them on the battlefield, but if we have a creature with power 4 greater, we can put 2 instead. It may not be as explosive as Last March, but it's still a ton of fun. It can get you some big value. And then we're playing both orders, Natural Order and Savage Order. Natural Orders lets you sack any green creature to go get a green creature. Most of the time, this is either used to go get that Ghalta Stampede Tyrant if you need to dump your hand in. This can go get you something like the Hoof, right, to buff your board and get in for a big attack. But Savage Order is a little bit different. You have to sack a creature power 4 or greater, and you can only go get a dinosaur. So a lot of times this is going to get one of the Galtas just to come in and have some big value. Again, most time it's the Stampede Tyrant, right, to just cheat your hand in. But you do have other dinosaur options in the deck. It's not like it's just Galta. But I kind of like these two, and they can help you end the game, right, on a big turn, because we have some creatures that are going to come in and really affect our board. There's the Hoof, of course. Really glad it got that reprint, bringing its price down. Whenever it comes in, creatures we control get +X/+X and trample until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures we control. Going to lead us to a nice big attack. We're bringing Earthshaker Giant in, a 6-mana 6/6 that gives other creatures we control +3/+3 and trample till end of turn. So not a bad buff, right? +3/+3 can go a long way depending on how much power you have on the board. God Eternal Ronins doubles each other creature we control's power until end of turn when it comes in and gives them vigilance. This is a killer ability because it's only 5 mana. Like, this is huge, especially with the base that all of our creatures are already. You know, you're just really helping out your creatures. Kamal hands out +3/+3 and trample at the beginning of each of our combats to all of our creatures. We love it. And it just allows us to get in for even more damage. Thunderfoot Bailiff hands out +2/+2 and trample to everybody, which is a great ability, right? Again, just buffing up that power. And then we do have things like Overwhelming Stampede as well, you know, an Alpha Strike type card to do that. Although, like I said, we have other effects in the deck. We don't need something like Overwhelming Stampede, but hey, if you have the 5 mana, use it. I really thought about something like the Tyvar from Duskmourn that has that Stampede ability as an activated ability. I thought about something like that as well, but I think we have more than enough of these Alpha Strikey type abilities. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is not my version 1.0 shot at Surrak and Goreclaw, but this is the first time doing it like this for the channel. And going into testing, I think a lot of my other creature choices are going to come down to the budget. Remember, the goal in this show is to stay between $300 and $350 in our deck budget. And in order to do that, we have to omit some key creatures. To me, 2 of them. Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, doubling up the amount of counters that would go on our things and having our opponent's counters is a huge piece. It's just that $50 is a hard price to pay for one creature that you're not guaranteed to see every time. Yes, we have things like Natural Order that can go get it, but it's one of those things where it's like, is it as useful as something like Old Gnawbone, where for $40, whenever you hit, you make that many treasures, is a huge ability that can drive us to take absolutely massive turns or rebuild if we need to. And then you have something like fun like Ulamog the Defiler. When you cast it, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. It comes in with counters on them because of the greatest mana value among cards in exile, and then it has that much Annihilator. This is just a brutal card, and if you can get it down at the right time, I think it could just really hurt an opponent outright. There are some bigger green creatures here, money-wise, that you can put in the deck, but I think the thing I like about Surrak and Goreclaw is I don't think you need them. I think with the base we put together, the deck's going to feel really good. It's just these bigger creatures that can make it more explosive at times. But let's do what we love to do on the channel and get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not to show off all our best plays, but it's to get in some game scenarios and kind of understand what we're looking for with our deck as far as hands and what we can expect. Here we've got a 3-lander with Whisper of the Wilds. A mana dork keeping that Tarkir love. It can tap for a green, or if we have a creature power 4 greater, it can tap for 2 green. And then up the Beanstalk, whenever we cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, we draw a card. And we see Kroxa and, not Kroxa, jeez, Kamal and Uberwald Hydra there on the top ends. We're not looking too bad. We've got our way to kind of get up to them. Here we'll play the Whisperer. Remember, Surrak and Goreclaw is 6 mana, so we've got a lot of way to get up there. I think we'll just play the Beans here. And remember, it draws a card when it comes in. And then, we do have enough mana for the Innkeeper's Talent, so we can use it and buff up the Wilds. I've got 4 right now. This would make it 5. I could cast Railway. Railway wouldn't be a bad shot here. This would turn on Whisper of the Wilds for next turn, and it would start giving some more counters to other creatures. That draws us a card off the Beans. And then we'll just put the counter on the Railway with Innkeeper's Talent as we go into combat. So now we've got plenty enough mana, Surrak and Goreclaw. We'll just get the Mosswort Bridge in tap. Remember, we look at the top 4. We get to pick one, and then we can play that later. I think we'll just pick the regular Goreclaw there. Can help reduce our spells later. And I think we just play Surrak and Goreclaw. So it's going to come in with 6 counters, right? Because of Railway Brawler, right? Which is great. That's also going to draw us a card off of Beans. I think we missed our mana, unfortunately. Right? It's not like we can mess around with it. So go to combat. I think I'd just put a counter on Railway Brawler and just take the attacks with Railway Brawler here. Now we're looking great for this turn. Getting the mana down for the Soul Ring. We could pay into the Mosswort Bridge to get this if we want to. That would leave us with 4 mana. But otherwise, we're at 6 mana right now. So we've got a lot of good, decent mana we can use. I like the idea of the... Or why am I... It's not 6 mana, 8 mana because of Whisperer. There's a lot we can do. I mean, last March would let us draw for 11 right now. It'd probably just end the game outright if no one can get rid of Surrak. And most of the time, people will get rid of Surrak by now. So that's a fun line. We could also go with a Woodworm line. But let's do the last March line. We're gonna draw 11. Right, because that's our greatest toughness. And now look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 creatures coming in. All of them are going to get their counters from Railway Brawler and haste from Surrak and Goreclaw. Actually, we would have drawn off of Beans as well. But again, now the game's for surely over because of Craterhoof. You have everybody else's ETB ability go off before Craterhoof, then have Craterhoof go off, buff the board, and we just win. Right? Craterhoof's so good at what it does, and we'll happily see it there. Getting into playtest number 2, we keep in a 2-laner with Soul Ring. Kodama's of the East Tree, Ram through for a little bit of removal. Eladamri can let us play things off the top, and Savage Order. So we've got some interesting options. We'll get the Soul Ring down turn 1, just in case it changes our turn 2 play. It doesn't. I think we'll just play Eladamri so we can take a peek at the top. We see the Unwritten. Play the Mosswort Bridge in, so we get to look at the top 4. Growing Rights is pretty fun, because when it flips over, it becomes a little guy's cradle. We see Vorinclex off the top. We can't play that Vorinclex, unfortunately, because we only have 4 mana. So we could just Garrick's Uprising, but we're not going to draw off of it, right? But I guess it could draw later. I just hate to waste the mana, right? Because yeah, if this was untapped, we could have gotten 6 out of the Garenbrig, right? If this was untapped, but since it's not, we'll just play the Garrick's Uprising and move into the next turn. Now, because of Garenbrig, you can put 4 mana in to get 6, so we could put 4 in to get Surrak and Goreclaw down there, which will draw us a card. That's Toski. See Nature's Lore on top. And now, coming into this turn, hopefully we can get some more of this party going. We see Natural Order on top, so we can set up a nice next turn. Go deep on this with the See the Unwritten if we want to, but again, we can get 6 into the Garenbrig. The only rule there is we have to use it for a creature. I kind of like the idea of going for Vorinclex, only because this is going to go get me 2 forests, and I get to play one of them this turn, since I haven't played land this turn. And then that draws me a card. And then I don't think I can use the mana for anything else just quite yet, but now Vorinclex can attack, and now we can look to even put this, now we can look to get this Growing Rights down, because we're going to hopefully be at enough creatures. So here, let's see, we can get into 6 and still use the Mosswort Bridge. So kind of thinking Kodama and then play the Growing Rights off of the Mosswort Bridge. And then when it comes in, look at the top 4, we can reveal a creature. Among them put into our hand, I really like Alta there for the big thing. Tangworm's fun, can give all our creatures Intimidate. But again, take your attacks here. Just realize Growing Rights would trigger Kodama. But I don't have any, well, I guess I have the land I can put down. I was going to say, I think I have any other permanents smaller than it. Take the attacks, and then on our next turn, I think we're just... What do we do? Savage Order for Galta and just dump our hand? That's my first thought. I was trying to think if there's any way to get some more value before I do it, but right, with Growing Rights flipped over, now as being basically a Gaia's Cradle, green free creature we control, we can basically spend all our mana and then get into it. So that's 8 mana, right? thinking just play Nylea, draw a card. And I'm kind of thinking just Savage ordering Nylea for Ghalta, because we have to pick something 4 greater, right? We can't sack Caladamri, unfortunately. But that would put in Ghalta and Toski, giving us, a bunch of power on board. And then I think we're still just in good shape. A little bit awkward there. We would have loved to have seen maybe some more mana earlier on, but I think the great part about Surrak and Goreclaw is we could still survive, right? Even when we don't. Playtest 3 here, keeping a 3-lander with Fanatic, Aronis, there's the Nature's Lore, Thunderfoot, and Overwhelming Stampede. So we're looking great here. I mean, Fanatic's just one of those great creatures that can help us out. We see Tribute to the World Tree. Whenever a creature comes in, if it's power 3 or greater, we draw. Otherwise, we put a couple counters on it. Here, I think we just crank the Nature's Lore out and just go get an extra set of land, and then there you go. Now we're at 6. We can get Surrak and Goreclaw down now. Right now, on a future turn, Fanatic's tapping for 4. So we're at 10 mana on turn 5, right? Just goes to show you how beneficial this deck can be sometimes. Thinking Tribute plus Vaultborn Tyrant. Draw a card off Vaultborn, draw a card off of Tribute, and then you can take the attack this turn with the Vaultborn Tyrant, and we're setting up our hand really well for next turn, right? As we come into our next turn, again, 10 mana, and again, Galt is only 2. 5. Trying to see if there's any way to sneak in. Do the All-in-Walled Hydra. Like I said, I don't think I snuck Nykthos into this list, so I guess we'll just go get a Forest. That's 7. Sorry, and that would draw me a card. And then Ghalta, right? Draw me a card. And I would have enough to put the Whisperer down. I say, how much left? 6, 1, 2. So I've got 3 mana left. We can throw the Whisperer and the Hardened Scales out. I guess we could have put the Hardened Scales out first, but, oh well. The point is, you still got great attacks this turn. We've drawn a ton of cards. And, sorry, that actually would have gotten 2 counters on it. But anyway, now next turn, Apex Devastator satisfies what we need as long as nobody really removes Surrak from the board. But let's go one more playtest here. We're keeping a 3-lander with Emerald Medallion, reduces all our green spells. There's Utopia Sprawl for a little bit of ramp, Hulking Raptor, and Ghalta. So we've got a nice kind of way to get started. Utopia Sprawl, turning that into a green, tapping for 2 green. Now we've got 3 green. Our choice is either the Medallion or the World Wagon. I kind of like the World Wagon here, just good in getting that land in, because now we can go Medallion into Hulking Raptor. Hulking Raptor can crew the World Wagon in attack, right, and get us that next land. That's what I think I like so much about this World Wagon. Here I've got just enough for, let's see, I have 5, 6 here, 1 reduction here, and 8. So I have 8 total with 1 reduction. So I could get Surrak and Goreclaw in for 5, and I've got 3 mana left with 1 reduction. I could go Ghalta now for 2 mana, or I can get something like Elemental Bonding, but I think it's Ghalta here. Have Hulking Raptor crew the World Wagon, right, to attack and go get another land, right? So it's a 6-5 or a 6-4 that's attacking, right? And these guys are attacking as well. So we're starting to get a good base of creatures attacking. A couple options here. We could like Rishkar's Expertise and just draw 12 if we want to, or we could go for something like Natural Order. Go ahead, we could crew Lumbering World Wagon, make it a creature and sack it to the World Order. But I kind of think it's just the answer is put the growth on here. So we got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and everything costs 1 less. So this would cost me 5. It would leave me with 4 mana, but it would get a ton of cards in my hand. Right, 13 of them to be exact. And I'm allowed to play a spell with mana value 5 or less from my hand without paying its mana cost. Because I've got 4. We said I have 4 mana left, right? I guess I just need to sack a green creature, right? So play the Whisper of the Wilds, sack it to the natural order, right? To go get, I guess, new Galta, right? And that would put down the Giant, the Woodworm, and might as well put down Apex Devastator this turn, just because they're all actually going to lead to that. Put the counters here. And then now we're just in great shape, getting into the red zone, attacking here. We get a few more things off of Woodworm's ability, but +3/+3 to everybody with the Giants. This is 14. This is 8. This is still 7. This is 16. This is 16. And this is 14. This turn, so we got lots of damage on board. And then we could still, before we play the natural order, we could actually crew that in response with the Hulking Raptor if we want to still go get more in. But let me know, what do you think of Surrak and Goreclaw down in the comment section below. Again, this is a more budget version of deck I've been running for myself. If you're interested in that, I'll probably end up covering it up here soon, probably for Final Fantasy. I've been wanting to go through and re-update my decks for the channel, so we'll probably end up doing that. But otherwise, I thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.